Okay. Most of us did find some minor issues. So for number 1, we should have distributed the negative. Combine like terms. And then solve for R. You guys are.
I will.
So this sign would have flipped and this would have been a negative. So R is now greater than or equal to -2. That would have been closed at -2, not positive. Going to the right. That interval notation would have started at -2 and went to infinity. So the 4 points on that word, did you solve this correctly? All 1 point. Did you get the correct inequality notation? Did you graph it correctly and the correct interval notation? Questions on any of that?
No.
Alright, and then for number 2, Renee is going bowling. The cost per game is $2.50. Renee will need to rent a pair of bowling shoes for $1.50. She can spend up to $16 to bowl and rent a pair of shoes. What is the maximum number of games that Renee can bowl? Don't you show all work and write your final answer in the box. So you should have had some sort of inequality. I didn't take off if you didn't define your variable or not. That wasn't the goal here because we've already talked about that. So some of you use G, X, it didn't matter. And then you needed to set up your inequality. If she can spend up to $16, that should have been less than or equal to. With $2.50 and your variable going together and adding $1.50. And then getting rid of $1.50. And dividing both sides by 2.5. I don't remember what that was off the top of my head. Thank you. Yeah, so you should have shown that you got 5.8, and then that would have rounded down to 5, not up to 6. So the 4 points there were, did you set up your inequality correctly? Did you solve it correctly? Excuse me. Get the actual correct answer, and then round it the correct answer. Questions on that? Make sure you are fixing any mistakes so you don't make these same mistakes on the test. On to objective 2. For this one, most of us did well on this one. There were some issues with the other one. So this one, we should have solved both of them separately. In both of them, both signs would have changed. Make sure you have the word or between your final 2 inequalities. Many of us missed that part. And then you could have put whatever numbers you want here. You just needed both of these in there. So if I went 0, 1, 2, that would be open to the left and open to the right. Your numbers don't have to match mine. The graph just has to look like that, going out at those places and open. So the 4 points there were, did you solve this side correctly? Did you solve this side correctly? Did you get the final inequality answer? And did you graph it correctly? You didn't have to do interval notation here, but if you did, it didn't ask for that, so I wasn't looking at that. Right, questions on that one? And then for number 4, you could have done this. Starting off, you should have divided everything by 5. leave it in the absolute value until you know it's isolated. Then create your two cases. If you know off the top of your head that this is less than or equal to, it's and, you can make your condensed case. Or you could have made the two separate cases. But if you made the two separate cases, make sure you flip the sign, the direction of the sign, and make the number negative. However you solve this, your final answer needed to be condensed. So whether you wrote it like this to begin with, or wrote it like this at the end, even though you got this, you still would have had to write it in a condensed form. -5 is less than or equal to x, which is less than or equal to 3, which should have been a. Also, if you look at the other ones, x is greater than -5 is going this way. And x is less than 3 is going this way. So it would overlap. So the 5 points on that one were, did you isolate the absolute value correctly? Up to this point. Did you set up your two cases or your condensed case? Solve correctly. Get the correct condensed answer. And then graph it correctly. Or choose the correct graph. Questions on any of those? On to graphing. Most of us got number 5 right. There were some mistakes. This should have been an x where it's less than 3. Because all of these numbers where it's shaded are less than 3. You could have picked a value, 0 is less than 3, -5 is less than 3, 2 is less than 3, and figured that out. Questions on that one? Alright, number 6, we had to solve this. And divide everything by 3. It's so bad. No. And then graph this. So this would have started at 7, went down 4, to the right 3. This one would be off. This would be a solid line shaded below. So that would be everything. And then it's asking which ordered pair is not a solution, which should have been D. 2, 7 is the only one that does not fall in the shaded area. So then the 5 points on that one were, did you solve the inequality to get it back in slope-intercept form correctly? Did you graph the slope and y-intercept points correctly? Is your type of line correct, solid, not dashed? Did you shade it correctly and then get the correct point? Questions on that? Okay. Most of us got the right slope and y-intercepts here, but the signs were we struggled a little bit with the signs. So starting with the solid line, that starts at +2. The slope is -1/2. It's a solid line, so it has to be equal to, and this is shaded above that line. So that should have been greater than or equal to. The other one starts at 5. It is a dashed line, so find another point that you think would be the slope and go all the way down, follow that all the way down. The slope was 2, positive 2. And at the y-intercept, this is shaded underneath, so that would be below. So it should have been y is greater than or equal to negative 1/2 x plus 2, and y is less than 2x plus 5. So if that was right, you got both points. If your sign was switched or you put a negative where it wasn't supposed to be, you missed points. Questions on that one? And then the last one. As long as we graphed this correctly, most of us got this right, but there were some issues with some of these. So one of them we could graph as is, starting at 1, slope is 1/2. This would be dashed, or I'm going to leave this as dotted. This would be shaded below. Then for the other one, we have to get rid of 3x. So that would start at 6. Slope is negative 3, so up 3, left 1, down 3, right 1. That one should be solid. Shaded above, so that would be everything here. So the overlapping should have been this area. So then if we check these points, -1, -3 was not in that. 9, -5 was. 1, 2 was on this line. If you checked it, it wouldn't have worked. 2, 0 was on this line. If you checked it, it did work. And then 5, 2 did work. So then the 11 points were, these were worth 5 points. You either got it or you didn't. Whichever one you didn't get, you lost that point. The solving was the 6 point. The type of line for both, the slope and y-intercept for both, the overlapping shaded area. Questions on any of that? Do we have any of this questions in general? We're going to go through the SOL stuff, so that way we don't have to do it later this week. But then tomorrow we're going to, after we do the Padlet question, the would you rather question, we'll go right into you guys taking your tests. Thursday will be a flex day, so those that need to finish your test, you'll have that time. Others will be working on retake work or other practice, and then Friday will be the same. So I'm going to show you the answers. Just write down the answers. Don't worry about the work right now, because it's not going to make a whole lot of sense unless you looked up how to do it. And then I'm going to show you in Desmos how you could do some of this stuff. Some of it is just checking. Some of it you could actually do. So just write answers, the boxed in answers for now. So number 1, 16 over x to the 10th. Number 2, 5y to the 15th over x to the 7th. Number 3, 1 over x to the 5th, y to the 8th. Number 4, 16y to the 7th. Number 5, 25x to the 4th. Number 6, y to the third over 6x to the fourth. 7, a to the 11th. Number 8 was D. So this is what we're going to be doing next.
Oh.
On to the next page. If you need me to go back, I can do that. Again, we're just writing answers. 9x minus 5. 10, you can write either or. 2x plus 2 or 2, then parentheses x plus 1. 11, 3x minus 5. 12, 7x plus 5. 13x minus 3. 14, 3x plus 1. 15, 4n plus 1. 16c.
First one. Can you go back up to 12? I see that one.
Okay, next page. 17. Circle these three things. 2x minus 3, and 2x plus 3. 18. In parentheses, write x minus 1 and then x minus 3. B you should have been able to do because we've talked about this before. But x intercepts were 1, 0 and 3, 0. Y intercepts were 0, 3. Domain and range we have not talked about, but the notation should look familiar. So when we get there, be thinking about that. Write this to the best of your ability. These are curly brackets, supposed to be x, and then just a line. X, there's a word E, it looks like a backwards 3. And then this is like a double R, draw a capital letter R with another line through it. It doesn't have to make sense right now, we will get into that. Or negative infinity to infinity. Range is similar. The notation, curly brackets, y, then a line. Y is greater than or equal to negative 1. Or square bracket, negative 1 to infinity. 19 was A. 20 was C. 21 was D. I'll show these in Desmos in just a second. The section that is due next week on Monday is all of A3. Again, that will be something that we have not talked about yet, so try putting it in Desmos. If it's multiple choice, put them all in Desmos. You'll get, put them in Desmos with capital letters or different variables, and you'll get decimals, see which one matches. Or you can look in Canvas on how to do it. Remember, it's informative, so no worries if you don't get it done. Try your best. Come see me if you actually want to know how to do it. I'm going to show you in Desmos really quickly how to do some of these, / type your answer, and then we'll do just math. Okay, so for all of 2A, the exponent stuff, this only works with checking. You can't use Desmos to get your answer. So if I put in, if I put in the actual problem, I added a slider, either making the x capital or changing it to a different variable, and then I put in my final answer. As long as this is not 1, -1, or 0, these should match. And that's how you know you did that right. A good way to check yourself in Desmos. And that's really for all of these problems. I just changed some of the variables. If they don't match, you know something's wrong. An exponent, a variable, it won't tell you what, but something would be off. And then all of 2b, if you were to put that in, type it in exactly as is, it's going to give you a line. That line, you should be able to find the slope and find the y-intercept. So y-intercept is at -5, slope is at 1. And if we look back at our answer, we got x minus 5. So it's like it's in your slope-intercept form, but without the y equals part. So all of these, whether you know how to do it or not, can be done in decimals. You can type it directly in. That was the one, sorry. All of those will give you the same thing. Find the slope, find the y-intercept, and write that down, and that will help you find the answers. The one that was multiple choice. This one. If you put in the original and put in the other answers, one of the lines is going to overlap. So if you see this one has dots and it's overlapping this line, that would be your answer. So that's a good way to check those also. Put them in, see if they overlap. We'll talk more about this when we get to this. This one had a lot going on already. But if I were to type in the original, so this is thicker, it's this red one, and I type in all the other ones, the answer choices would be something that crosses this at the x-intercepts, which would be the blue and the black. And this one we're talking about. So if you know how to use Desmos, you could find the answers without knowing what you're doing. So here I see that these two lines cross this at the x-axis, so those would be my answers. To figure out the other one, two, I think we also circled, we'd have to actually solve that. But all the other ones are the same. Put in the original, put in the answer choices, see which one overlap at the x-axis. And this one, there was only one. This one, again, there was only one. This one, there's a lot going on, but if this was one of these is the original, you were looking for points, so whichever points would cross at your x-axis. A lot of those are x-axis things, right? Even if that didn't make a whole lot of sense, if you want to know more about that, you can come see me after school or ask me in this time frame. For the rest of the class, that's math.